Please be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Bruce Keppen, and I have the privilege of serving as the Dean of the Frank H. Netter, MD, School of Medicine at Quinnipiac University. I would like to welcome our students, their family and friends, the faculty, representatives from our affiliated clinical institutions, and guests to the white coat ceremony for the members of our charter class, the class of 2017. Before we begin, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge and recognize some of the many people who have helped get us to this day. First, I would like to acknowledge the institutions that will be helping to train our students. These are St. Vincent's Medical Center, our principal clinical partner, Midstate Medical Center, Middlesex Hospital, Waterbury Hospital, Hartford Hospital, and the Jewish Home of Fairfield. I would also like to say a special thank you to the Arnold P. Gold Foundation for their gift and support of this white coat ceremony. We are joined today by my colleagues from the Schools of Nursing and Health Sciences, Dr. Jean Lang, Dean of the School of Nursing, and Dr. Kim Hartman, Interim Dean of the School of Health Sciences. Would the founding faculty of the School of Medicine please stand and be recognized? All faculty, basic science and clinical. Please remain standing, and would the staff, administrative staff from the school, please stand. Lastly, I would like to recognize the individual whose vision and leadership is responsible for the creation of the medical school and really all of what Quinnipiac University is today. It's my pleasure to introduce President John Leahy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here to add a warm welcome to all of you, and a particularly warm welcome and my congratulations for our 60 medical students, the first students admitted to the Frank Netter School of Medicine. You're a very special class in a number of ways. First and foremost, we received almost 2,000 applications for the 60 available seats in this first year class. So the very fact that you're here today tells me that you're a brilliant and talented group of young people and have done extremely well, and I certainly want to add my congratulations to you. You should be happy also that you didn't apply next year. I was just talking to our Dean of Admissions and kiddingly asked him how many applications he has for next year's class, and he told me 3,500. So you can imagine how well known this medical school is already becoming. But also, in addition to being talented and brilliant, you're also, obviously, will always be, in the history of this medical school and the history of this university, the first medical school class ever to have been admitted. And of course, 4 years from now, I have no doubt that you will be, all of you, the first graduates of the Frank Netter School of Medicine. You're also starting your medical training and eventually your medical practice at probably one of the most exciting and challenging times in the history of medical education and the healthcare delivery system in this country. In not too many years, you will not only be asked to practice medicine, but be leaders in delivering our healthcare services to people throughout this country. You'll have to do it in a way that maximizes accessibility, keeps down the affordability, and makes sure that people can afford that care, and yet at the same time, maintain the quality of American healthcare system, which is widely recognized as the finest medical system anywhere in the world. Those would be very high goals and challenging opportunities for you, but I have no doubt, looking at this very young and talented and able and energetic group of young people, I have every confidence that you'll achieve those goals and even more. I also want to assure you that this medical school very much fits into the overall university mission and will be, while it might be the newest school here at the university, it will be a very, very important part of this university's mission. And I can assure you, it will receive, from me and from the university generally, all of the resources, financial and human and physical resources. You might be the newest medical school, part of the newest medical school in the country, but this is going to be one of the finest medical schools, I can assure you, in the years ahead. You already are starting off in a very fortunate way. While the newest medical school in the country you might think would not be well known, you already have a name that has put you on the map, the Frank Netter School of Medicine. Frank Netter, while I didn't know him while he was alive, he's without question the greatest medical illustrator in the world. And he was one of, without question, the greatest medical educators, and is known not only by medical students and physicians, but all of healthcare professionals, nurses, and others for his great illustration and the enormous contribution he made to medical and health education. And as I said, I didn't know Frank, but I was fortunate enough to be very good friends for the past 2 decades with his first cousin, Edward Netter, and Edward's lovely wife, Barbara. Unfortunately, we lost Edward about 18 months ago, but Barbara continues very much alive and supportive of their support of this medical school. And it was about 4 or 5 years ago when I was proposing the idea of a medical school to our Board of Trustees. I talked to Edward, as I often did, and he told me, John, if you go ahead with this medical school, he said, let me know in advance. He said, I want to make a major gift to the medical school. And I got back to him about 3 years later and told him the Board of Trustees is going to go ahead and approve it. Little did I know at the time, the gift that he had in mind turned out to be the largest single gift in the history of the university. And of course, along with it was the opportunity to name it for his first cousin, Frank Netter. And he told me he had enormous affection and admiration for Frank and his contributions. And he wanted to both recognize Frank's contribution by putting his name on this medical school, but he also wanted to help Quinnipiac University and do something. Again, the newest medical school would from day one be among the best known medical schools in the country as a result of being named the Frank Netter School of Medicine. So I can assure you, in addition to my general commitment to supporting all things Quinnipiac and all schools that we have at the university, I feel a very special and sacred obligation to the late Edward Netter and Barbara, who will be here for our dedication of our new center on September 12th. I very much feel a personal obligation to make sure that this medical school develops and receives the resources it needs to be one of the finest medical schools in the country, worthy of the name and the career of Dr. Frank Netter, and equally worthy of the generous support of Barbara and Edward Netter. And finally, let me just say, I'm not getting any younger, as you can tell. I've been president for 27 years, and I'll be around for your graduation, I can assure you that, God willing. But I am certainly going to be needing health care more and more in the years ahead. And I have a distinct bias to be treated by Quinnipiac-trained nurses, Quinnipiac-trained health professionals, and now, thanks to all of you, in the years ahead, I'll have the opportunity, hopefully, to be treated by Quinnipiac-educated medical doctors. Again, my congratulations to all of you and my best wishes to each and every one of you.
Thank you, President Leahy. I would like to take just a few minutes to address the members of the class of 2017 and then also your family and friends who are here with you today. To the class of 2017, congratulations. I know you worked long and hard to be sitting where you are today. As Dean of the School of Medicine, let me be the first to welcome each and every one of you into the profession of medicine. Now, some of you that might sound a little strange because, truth be told, you can't even call yourself doctor until you graduate. But starting today, you need to consider yourself as a member of the profession of medicine, because with that membership comes expectations and responsibilities you must inculcate into everything you think and do. I will refer to these expectations and responsibilities collectively as professionalism. Professionalism embodies many things, including compassion, duty, honesty, integrity, and respect. While our faculty can help you learn and master the knowledge and skills you will need as a physician, the task of becoming a professional falls squarely on your shoulders. and there is no better time to begin that work than today when you receive your white coat and stethoscope. It is not by accident that Drs. Lang and Hartman are part of today's ceremony. As a member of the profession of medicine, you will work side by side with the other members of the healthcare team, many of whom are being trained in the School of Nursing and the School of Health Sciences here at Quinnipiac. The faculty in these schools and their students are your colleagues, and they deserve your respect. Know also that they can be your teachers. In just a few weeks, you will start seeing patients as part of your medical student home experience. The patients you meet will share things with you that they would not share with anyone else. They will also allow you to touch them and to do things to them that no one else would be allowed to do. You will see people when they are most vulnerable and frightened. They deserve your respect as well as your compassion and your integrity. And oh, by the way, they will be some of your best teachers. As you begin classes next Monday, remember that as a member of the profession of medicine, your job is to learn, not just pass the next test. The faculty stand ready to help you, but again, the responsibility is all yours. Approach your learning with integrity and honesty. Again, congratulations on being a member of our charter class. You will hear much more about professionalism in the weeks and years to come. But beginning today, consider yourself a member of the profession of medicine, because if you do, it will influence the tasks that await you, and it will guide the way you interact with your colleagues in nursing and health sciences, your patient, and others. Now to the family and friends. Be proud of your special member of the class of 2017. They sit before you today because they have achieved much, but I know, and they do as well, that they didn't do it alone. They had your love and support, especially during the hard times. Please don't consider your job as being finished. They are still going to need your support and love because they still have many challenges ahead. So continue to be there for them. Sometimes all it takes is a phone call or even an encouraging text message just before the big exam. Be there for them and start getting ready for the day they walk across the stage at commencement and receive their diploma. Then you can call them doctor. Thank you. I now call Dr. Stephen Weichel to the podium. Dr. Weichel is the Senior Associate Dean for Scholarship and Chair of the school's Department of Medical Sciences. Shortly, he will hold the school's first endowed chair, the St. Vincent's Chair of Medical Sciences. Dr. Weichel will provide a brief history and significance of the white coat and thus the white coat ceremony.
Thank you, Dean Keppen. The white coat ceremony, developed by Arnold P. Gold, originated at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons in 1993. Dr. Gold's objective was to bring a humanistic focus to medicine. He believed that a physician's responsibility is not only to take care of patients, but also to care for patients. The white coat ceremony is an integral part of the institutional practice of medical schools in the United States and around the world. The ceremony takes place at 96% of Association of American Medical College accredited institutions. The Arnold P. Gold Foundation designed the white coat ceremony to help entering medical students establish a psychological contract for the practice of medicine. The ceremony in which you're participating symbolizes that throughout your life you need to emphasize the importance of compassionate care for your patients, as well as achieving the scientific and clinical proficiencies underpinning the practice of medicine. You may be surprised to learn that until the late 1800s, physicians dressed in black. An excellent representation of physicians of that era engaged in patient care is the 1875 masterpiece by Thomas Eakins, The Gross Clinic, in which Dr. Samuel Gross and his assistants are all wearing formal black attire while performing an operation. Black attire to this day is considered formal. Medical encounters were considered to be both formal and serious interactions. Likewise, clergy of that era wore black to reflect the solemn nature of their interactions with parishioners. Until the latter part of the 1800s, interactions with physicians was often not particularly beneficial to the patient and was frequently associated with impending demise. Resulting from his awareness of the writings of Louis Pasteur, Sir Joseph Lister, professor of surgery at the University of Glasgow, is recognized for the introduction of phenol to sterilize surgical instruments and to clean wounds, which resulted in a dramatic reduction in post-surgical infections. Implementing antisepsis contributed to the movement of medicine to a scientific-based discipline. The importance of antisepsis and the bioscientific foundations of medicine were further advanced by the publication in 1892 of Sir William Osler's textbook, Principles and Practice of Medicine, which became a standard for many decades. Carnegie Bulletin, Foundation Bulletin number 4, the report by Abram Flexner, published in 1910, resulted in sweeping changes in medical education and the restructuring of medical education around laboratory science. Cleanliness and antisepsis became core tenets of medical practice. The pureness and cleanliness of medicine was thus reflected in the white attire, the transition to the white attire for physicians and nurses. The nature of the transition is evident in the painting by Thomas Eakins, the Agnew Clinic, which was commissioned by the University of Pennsylvania medical class of 1889 and painted 14 years after the Gross Clinic. Dr. David Hay Agnew, the famous anatomist and surgeon, is wearing a white smock. His assistants are wearing white. The nurse is wearing a white cap, and the patient is draped in a white sheet. The white coat continues to be a symbol of medicine. It symbolizes knowledge, compassion, and honor in the patient-doctor relationship. The white coat can also be intimidating. Pediatricians and psychiatrists often prefer not to wear white to reduce patient anxiety, and white coat syndrome is a widely recognized phenomenon in which elevated blood pressure occurs in the clinical setting, but not elsewhere. Dr. L.D. Lewis stated in the white coat keynote address at Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons in 1994 that the white coat is viewed by patients as a cloak of compassion and a symbol of hope and caring that they expect to receive from physicians. Sir William Osler said that the practice of medicine is an art, not a trade, a calling, not a business, a calling in which your heart will be exercised equally with your head. As you begin your medical education now, many of you are likely feeling a mixture of emotions that include anxiety, apprehension, excitement, and anticipation. You are entering a dynamic profession, and your careers will be marked by spectacular scientific and clinical advances. As you don your white coat for the first time today, reflect upon the core values it symbolizes, and that will guide you throughout your life: scientific and clinical competence and the highest standards of professionalism, compassion, honor, integrity, and trust. You are embarking on a wonderful journey that will touch many lives in countless positive ways.
Thank you, Dr. Weichel. I would now ask Dr. Lisa Coplett, Associate Dean for Faculty Development, to come to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Bruce. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Jessica Israel. Dr. Israel is the Chief of the Divisions of Geriatric Medicine and Palliative Care and Pain, the Vice Chair of the Department of Medicine, and the Interim Chairperson of the Department of Medicine at Monmouth Medical Center in New Jersey. She's also the Medical Director of the St. Barnabas Hospice and Palliative Care Center at Monmouth Medical Center and the founder of New Jersey's first and only outpatient palliative care practice. Dr. Israel went to medical school at Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York and completed her residency in medicine and fellowship in geriatrics at Mount Sinai as well. Soon after, in 2002, she went to Monmouth Medical Center to become the Chief of Palliative Medicine and Pain. She has won several awards for her outstanding and compassionate care of patients, for her leadership, her service, her teaching, and her writing. She's been invited to speak around the country at medical centers, at national academic meetings, and locally she educates her patients in the community. She's the recipient of several grants, including most recently a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation grant for her Transitions in Care program at Monmouth. She's designed novel curricula for students and residents and fellows, and she's held several leadership roles in education, including running the first-year doctoring course at Mount Sinai in her first 2 years out of fellowship training. And that is when I met Jessie. We were both junior faculty at Mount Sinai, and while we only overlapped as colleagues for 1 year, she is one of the most memorable people I've met in my life and my career. She's an incredible woman, doctor, teacher, and mentor. One of the things that people love about Jessie is that she's so down to earth and direct and funny, but she's also eloquent, and the profound experiences that she has had in her training and as a palliative care doctor, she writes about them and how they have impacted her as a person and a physician. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jessica Israel.
Thank you, Lisa. That almost made me cry sitting there, I think. So I must tell you that this is the second time in my life that I've been given the chance to welcome a new class to the profession of medicine through a white coat ceremony. However, this is the first time that I've ever given the inaugural white coat address at the newest medical school in the country. It's truly a tremendous honor for me to be with you, your families, and your future teachers and mentors today. I remember wearing my white coat for 2 weeks at the beginning of my internship in medicine. I was carrying all of these guidebooks and quick reference cards around with me because I was afraid something would happen in the hospital that I wouldn't be prepared to handle. I had my ophthalmoscope, my pen light, my tuning fork, my EKG calipers, and all of the computer access codes that I hadn't memorized yet. And really, who knows what else, because I needed the coat because of the pockets. I needed a place to put all of the stuff. And I rounded in the hospital, weighted down on both shoulders by the pull of the pockets on this coat. And the truth is, I could never find anything when I needed it anyway. Truth be told, most of the things I needed to know could never be found in a pocket reference book or seen with a pen light. So eventually I shed the coat. I wore it for just 2 weeks total in the 18 years that I've now been practicing medicine. This is why when your school asked me if I needed anything to help me prepare to talk with your class today, I was a little nervous that they might rethink their decision when I said, I need a white coat because I don't actually have one. And now that I've admitted that, you're probably wondering why I am the one addressing your class today. And actually now your deans and teachers are probably wondering that same thing too. And honestly, I wondered about it myself. And I think the answer to the why me question is because even though I don't own a white coat, I'm sure that I wear one. I wear one every day, everywhere I go. It's like a virtual coat, and it's different every day. There are some days where it is freshly laundered and pressed, somewhere it is splattered with blood, somewhere areas of it are threadbare, and sometimes it blatantly tears. It's both a shield and an opening, both to and from opportunities that I never imagined I would share. Just a bit about my work to give you the information you'll need to get what I'm talking about, and then I'll get back to what I mean by the virtual coat that a lot of you are probably already wearing. I'm a palliative care and hospice doctor. I specialize in the end of life, every aspect of it. The medical, the emotional, the spiritual, the practical, and all of the gray areas that exist between these words and my patients. My work is tremendously rewarding. I live and learn life's lessons through the patients and families that I care for. Every day, I find myself standing in a room with people who were yesterday total strangers to me, now sharing life's purest and most graceful moments. When people know they are dying, suddenly all that matters is what's most important. Everything else washes away. You are left with uninterrupted moments of love and hope, fear and vulnerability, loss and survival. There is this little bit of the unknown mixed in with all that is completely understandable. Truth and uncertainty are together, and there are surprises at every turn. Always something to learn, and it puts my life into perspective. And that brings me back to the virtual coat. Mine is made of witness, of moments of truth, and of words. My coat brings relief from suffering. My coat is safety and permission. My coat is full of fighting and yielding at the same time. It is reasonable and reassuring. It knows its limits most of the time. It remembers where it came from. It is well read, but not too well rested. It knows the value of a deep laugh, a good friendship, and the perfect teachable moment. It's perfectly comfortable saying, I have no idea what is wrong here, but it knows where to look for the answers. It does the best it can, even when sometimes the best can never be enough. And that's just what it's made of today. I can't tell you really what a tremendous honor it is for me to welcome your class to the field of medicine, because there really aren't words for how much this means to me. It's truly a highlight in my career, and I realize the importance of this opportunity, of these moments that I have with you, and I want to be meaningful. I don't want to be too preachy or too touchy-feely, but I want to hit all of you with something that I hope you will remember, so I'm going to tell you a story. It's about a patient that I once cared for named Sam, and it's about his wife, too. Sam had white, wispy hair, broad shoulders, and large, soft hands. When I met him, I knew that he was once a patriarch, wise and warm, the kind that you just know supported so many. Alzheimer's disease had robbed him of his words and taken away his person, but if you looked closely, you could still see traces of it. He sat in a chair in the hospital room where he could see the ocean. He dressed in a robe and pajamas each day. He always said hello, and he liked ice cream. I knew that Sam was going to die soon, so I sat down with his wife to tell her and to support her. I will never forget what her eyes looked like when she told me that she was going to bring him home. She was so determined, so confident and sure, and I was really worried about her doing this. Sam was 3 times her size, and he couldn't move by himself. He was having trouble breathing. So I said to her, I think this is going to be really hard for you. And I meant it on so many levels. The pure physicality of it, the loss of one's true love, the work of it all. She never moved her eyes away from mine when she told me, there is nothing in life that's really worth it that isn't going to be hard. All of those things you have to work for. She called me 2 mornings later from home, and I could tell that she had been crying. Sam died this morning in our bed, in my arms next to me, she said, and I want to thank you. There is nothing in life that's really worth it that isn't going to be hard. All of those things you have to work for. I have learned some of life's biggest lessons because my patients have taught them to me. I think that Sam's wife meant that life isn't all perfect and pretty, that sometimes it's messy and beautiful, all at the same time. It's a challenge with choices. We have to work with those things that give us what we need and make us whole. This is the biggest gift in medicine. This is the secret that I am so excited to let you in on today. You're going to learn a lot about disease and cures, but you're going to learn even more about yourself. Today, you're going to put on your first white coat, and in many ways, you are never really going to take it off. What it's made of is going to change every day. That's the hard part, the part that you have to work for, understanding what will make up the fabric of your coat. The work that we will do together as you join this profession, believe me, is going to be amazing. In the next 4 years alone, you are going to become very well read and much less rested. You will probably each hold a newborn baby in your hands that you helped deliver. You will spend a harrowing night at a sick patient's bedside worrying. You will help to hold down someone's 5-year-old child while he gets a well-visit vaccination. You will teach someone to manage their diabetes, and what you tell them will be the basis of how they care for themselves for the rest of their lives. Tremendous responsibility will follow you. And at the same time, some of you might get married. Actually, according to statistics that I once heard, maybe to someone in this room that you haven't even met yet. A couple of you will have children, and you will all get older and live and share your lives. You will have to decide how much of your coat the rest of the world will see, how much you're going to keep to yourself. There may be parts that are even hard for you to see. You will have to decide how much of it will be in armor and how many buttons you're going to leave undone. I hope that you will learn from your patients every day. Take what they teach you about medicine and about yourself and weave it into the fabric of your coat. Wear it right out of the hospital and into your life too. That's the thing about this profession. The coat you're getting today, it goes everywhere. At the end here, I want to share with you one more story, a simple one that ties it all together. 2 weeks ago, a patient of mine died on the inpatient unit of the hospice that I direct. She was 91 years old and content in a way, very satisfied. The last time I saw her, she held my hands in her hands and she told me, "Live a good life, kiddo." And it's silly in a way, but at the same time, I think so profound, so I'm sharing it with you today. It's the very best that any of us can do. Live a good life. You and I are going to live ours with a coat on. It will separate us from the rest of the world and at the same time welcome us into it. So with this, I leave you. Congratulations, the class, Frank H. Netter School of Medicine class of 2017.
Thank you, Dr. Israel, for those inspiring remarks. We are now at the point in the ceremony where the members of the class of 2017 receive their white coat and stethoscope. Dr. Sam Parrish, Associate Dean for Medical Student Affairs, will lead this portion of the ceremony.
Earlier, Dr. Weichel gave the history and discussed the relevance of the white coat in this white coat ceremony. In his comments, he indicated that white coats signify the wearer as a healthcare professional, but the white coat also carries with it prestige, prominence, and power for the wearer. Sometimes this serves to unintentionally separate the wearer from the patient that he or she is privileged to serve. So in recognition of this, we're presenting our class with both a white coat and a stethoscope that will provide a direct connection from the wearer to the patient. We trust that this will serve as a constant reminder of the obligation we have to the patients we have the honor of serving. Aditi Abraham. Adiolu Adeboy. Elvira Alakverdeva. Eva Amenta. Thomas Azizat. Ryan Barnacle. William Berger. Danielle Batalico. Benjamin Kramer. Allison Cunningham. William Devan. Galen DiDomizio. Carissa DeNobly. Misty Embry. Angela Faruqi. James Fraser. Howard Furlong IV. Justin Garyu. Nicole Gordon. Kara Gardino. Abigail Garal. Cameron Harrison. Ahmad Harsoni. Kumba Hines. John Houston. Clinton Ingersoll. Sharmila J. Kumar. Philip Jordan. Jean Kim. Edward Naoki Kobayashi. Kevin Kuo. Samantha Lamondo. Sarah Mahmood. Christina Malazzi. Corinne Marie Ariam Masada. Jarrett Masson. Chris Morgan. Marcus Nisi. Caitlin Norman. Emmanuel Nwachukwu. Jeffrey O'Neill. Timothy O'Rourke, Jr. Georgina Pappas. Paige Peterson. Devin Pizer. Casey Joseph Rosenthal. Alberto Russell. Victoria Ryan. Christina Ryu. Lindsay Sierka. Navjot Kaur Sobti. Tamar Stokelman. Venkat Subramanyam. Caitlin Tilburg. Nicole Troiano. Lanre Udu. Jennifer Umego. Aaron White. Zahia Zayed. Matthew Abershamian.
The class of 2017 will be led in the Hippocratic Oath by Dr. David Hill, professor in the Department of Medical Sciences and director of the school's Institute for Global Public Health.
Thank you, Dean Keppen. Will the Frank H. Netter, MD, School of Medicine, class of 2017, please rise? Now, how good does that sound? At this time, I also ask any medical students or physicians in attendance who want to reaffirm their oath to join us. Please stand. The Hippocratic Oath in modern language can be found on the back page of your program. We will read it responsively. I will look up when it's your turn. I swear to fulfill to the best of my ability and judgment this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those physicians in whose steps I walk. and gladly share such knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. I will apply for the benefit of the sick all measures that are required, avoiding those twin traps of overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. I will remember that there is art to medicine as well as science. And that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will not be ashamed to say, I know not, nor will I fail to call in my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for a patient's recovery. I will respect the privacy of my patients, for their problems are not disclosed to me that the world may know. Most especially must I tread with care in matters of life and death. If it is given me to save a life, all thanks. But it may also be within my power to take a life. This awesome responsibility must be faced with great humbleness and awareness of my own frailty. Above all, I must not play at God. I will remember that I do not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being. Whose illness may affect the person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems if I am to care adequately for the sick. I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. I will remember that I remain a member of society with special obligations to all my fellow human beings. Those sound of mind and body, as well as the infirm. If I do not violate this oath, may I enjoy life and art, respected while I live and remembered with affection thereafter. May I always act so as to preserve the finest traditions of my calling. And may I long experience the joy of healing those who seek my help. So if the class of 2017 can remain standing, the rest may take their seats. Dean Keppen.
I present to you the charter class of the Frank H. Schnetter, MD, School of Medicine. This concludes our ceremony. I would ask that the audience remain seated until the class of 217 has exited, and give them a moment for a class picture behind the curtains. Then please join us behind the curtains for the reception. Thank you all for coming.